Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man whose favorite team did not lose this weekend. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Patriots haven't lost in the playoffs in a couple years now, so that definitely feels good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to start off on a somber note here with the creamsicle shirt here on for a playoff game. And how are we feeling?
I've been better. Zachary Stewart says in the chat, we took command. Let's go, Jaden for MVP. Congrats, Zachary Stewart, and congrats to the Commanders for winning. I've been better, Kyle. I mean, I think I'm okay with this loss. It was a tough loss. It was a competitive game. I would have loved to win. I think the thing about it you have to view is like, I just don't think this Buccaneers team was a Super Bowl contender. I think that this was a team that probably could have, that's such a weird year where they had such high highs, but like this team was so inconsistent. The defense was not good all year, and they basically needed everybody to be healthy, and they had the opposite. Jamel Dean going down in the fourth quarter, or actually late in the third, really hurt. But like that was just it. Is they couldn't get enough stops, and ultimately they beat themselves, right? Like I know I'm kind of talking all over the place, but I think we kind of have to start there. The Buccaneers have the ball up 4 points. They get a first down with a great Mike Evans play, and then they just on a sort of it looked to be like a fake jet sweep, and Baker Mayfield just puts the ball too far back, or the timing was messed up. I'm not sure which, but they fumbled a football. Washington gets a possession starting inside of 20. They score a touchdown on a 4th and 2, and then later on a 3rd down and inches on the next possession in field goal range, Tampa Bay screws up the snap count. Graham Barton snaps the ball. No one else is ready for it. And then they have to kick a field goal. And then the Commanders never let Tampa Bay have the ball back again. Those two mistakes, like you can't win playoff games making those mistakes.
Yeah. It's really kind of what it comes down to, right? Like this game didn't have a lot of mistakes in general. Both of these quarterbacks played exceptionally well. I think both offenses, despite not scoring a ton of points, had some really long, kind of productive drives and were producing a lot. So that's kind of what made the game a little bit lower scoring, was these long drives, obviously adding to the fact. And so those two costly mistakes look absolutely brutal. Things like the fumble in the red zone obviously is a killer. But like the snap miscommunication between Barton and, obviously Barton was in the wrong there because nobody else moved.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is that's something that usually you can overcome if that's your only mistake. But when the other team does such a good job at not making mistakes, and specifically the quarterback does, it's very hard to overcome that as a whole. And that was basically what Tampa Bay was looking at in this game. And it was it's a tough game and a tough way to end the season. I also think, we're going to do a lot of Tampa Bay talk, I think, to start with the season, and obviously your team. But part of the worry with playing Washington in the playoffs, and that was kind of the one thing, is like you're facing the best quarterback in the NFC. And if you have to beat him, it's not easier than beating some of the other quarterbacks, even though those teams may be better. And we saw that kind of come to fruition in this game, it felt like.
Yeah, Daniels was great in this game. His numbers aren't like otherworldly. I was actually surprised to see his he had 2.8 rush yards per carry running. I think there was a kneel down or two in there. Although I'm not sure. Did Mariota take the kneel? I don't know. It was weird. But regardless, he was great in this game. And like you said, the fact that there was no like rookie mistake. They had that first drive where they get in field goal range. It's a 3rd down and 2. Levante David chases down Daniels. It's now a 4th and 2. Daniels kind of makes a short throw, but I don't think it would have been a first down anyway. And you're thinking like, okay, is he rattled? Is this going to get to him? You see this happen with a lot of young quarterbacks. It didn't at all. I think they didn't score in the next drive, but then they had like a 90-yard touchdown drive. He was remarkable in this game, and he really is. We're going to talk more about Tampa Bay, obviously, just because this is kind of the eulogy, and it's my team, like you said. But like the story of this game is, like you said, the Buccaneers were the first team to lose to Jaden Daniels in the playoffs. They're not going to be the last team.
No, definitely not. And he took over this game when it needed it. And like you said, the numbers aren't like jaw-dropping or anything like that, but it was just so it was so Mahomes-esque, where I felt like anytime they needed a big play, he just had it. Like the one was the 4th down late, the first fourth down that they didn't convert, which they ended up getting the fumble recovery and scoring anyways later, with his big touchdown pass. But everything else, it just felt like whenever they needed a big play, he was coming up with it. And yes, I'm comparing. I called him the best quarterback in the conference, and also compared him to Patrick Mahomes on this podcast. First 5 minutes of the show, but we're doubling down on this, man. Like, it just felt like every time they needed a big play, he came up with it, and he pushed the ball downfield. Just a couple of stats I looked at from PFF after this game: 48.6% of his passes went beyond the first down marker. He was looking to throw the ball downfield.
Man,
Talked so much about this Tampa Bay secondary, what he was going
Mhm.
at. He didn't. He only got sacked one time, despite taking all that time to throw the ball downfield. And you mentioned the running aspect of it too. Like, he had 36 rushing yards. 29 of those came after contact, and he had the two biggest first downs of the game with his legs. Like, it just felt like anytime they needed a play, they knew who their wagon was, and they hitched through their wagon and got it.
Yeah, obviously the biggest being that third down late in the game. Tampa Bay would have had about 45 seconds left to try and get a field goal drive to tie it. Had they gotten a stop, Kalijah Kancey gets loose in the backfield, and Daniel I think he just stiff armed him, made a miss, and got the first down. That's just, like you said, it's Patrick Mahomes stuff. I mean, he's going to be a problem in this conference for quite some time. The Commanders' defense fought in this game. Early on, they were playing really well with the run defense. It ultimately kind of fell apart towards the end. Luckily, they got a couple of Tampa Bay mistakes. Bobby Wagner took advantage with that incredible fumble recovery. You know, we have to talk about this. Hey, Kyle, I gotta celebrate my wins when I can get them. Mike Evans versus Lattimore was very fun for me.
You definitely won the battle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans did his thing. I thought Baker Mayfield, like I said, I thought he played exceptionally well too. Like, for everything that Jaden Daniels, I said, was excellent at, like, Baker Mayfield might have been just as good, if not better, at times. He was pushing the ball downfield as well, maximizing his opportunities throwing the ball. They didn't throw the ball a whole lot in this game, but when they did, they maximized it. And like you said, this was a lot of Mike Evans in this game. They wanted to target that matchup. He took advantage of it, and it was another one where it felt like every big third down, it was Mike Evans's ball or bust. And for the most part, it worked. It just came down to one fumble, which was I don't know. I'm not blaming Baker Mayfield for that play because it was kind of unfortunate. It was a kind of, I don't know exactly who to blame for that one. Maybe there just isn't anybody to blame, but it was an unfortunate play that kind of was the difference in the game. But yeah, I mean, that offense was fantastic, and they knew exactly who they wanted to target, and they went after it.
Yeah, we'll probably never know really whose fault it is. I imagine that's going to be one of those things where every player says it's their fault. Who knows? But it just can't happen. I mean, I get what you're saying, but like, that's just a mistake that can't happen in that moment. Like, and that's how you lose playoff games. It's really, if they don't make that mistake, they probably win this game.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the Commanders weren't stopping. Neither team was really stopping either one in this game. That was the thing. It was like, it just felt like the drives were so long and drawn out, and these teams weren't scoring touchdowns. I think if you look at it from the Commanders' perspective, you probably say, well, we had all these plays and we deserve to win because we dominated time of possession and dominated the total play count, even if the yards per play wasn't in our favor. And if you look at the Commanders' drives, they had 10-play drive, 4-play drive, touchdown. That was the end of the game. But they started the game with a 7-play drive, a 17-play drive for a touchdown, a 11-play drive for a field goal, a 10-play drive for a field goal, a 12-play drive for a turnover on downs, and then they got the fumble and the touchdown, and then a 10-play drive for a field goal. Like, they just constantly had the ball and constantly were able to convert. And on the Tampa side, it just felt like you were moving the ball at will when you wanted to. Anytime you wanted to push the ball downfield, it was there for you. And like you said, it just came down to one missed opportunity.
Yeah. Kyle, I'm also disappointed because I got this shirt here. I'll try and show it where it's like a Ducks Buccaneers shirt. It's a great shirt, I think. But my concern now is that no one's gonna remember the Duck in like 4 years. Like, this is gonna not age well. I only got one real chance to wear the shirt.
I think it'll be fine. I had some Bruins, like playoff Bruin shirts like that, and they all age fine. Everybody got the joke. We'll get it. We're there.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least going to a game, people will get it, right? Maybe if I'm walking down the street, people will be confused, but that's okay.
Yeah. The very niche Buccaneers fans will be on your side, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
So
that's really the goal. Let's eulogize the Buccaneers because we only have 5 games to talk about, which is nice. I like being able to take our time with these games. Um,
yeah.
I think first things first, like there's no way they're letting Chris Godwin go after this season, right? Like they're gonna bring him back. You would think.
I guess it depends on what the market is for him, right? Like I would assume he comes back, but at the same time, I mean, if he's I'm trying to think of like it'd be an arbitrary number for me at this point. But if he's upper echelon dollar amount receiver on the market, is that something you're doubling down on? I mean, you still probably do because he was so good to start the season, but it definitely carries some risk, and he's a guy who's also carried a bunch of injuries throughout his careers. But I do see the logic to bring him back, loading up on this receiving core. Like Jalen McMillan had a really good season, had a really good second half of the season, wasn't much of a factor in this game. So I think there's an argument to say, let's bring Godwin back. Let's load up this offense. And I mean, this offense was awesome this season. And that is something that like, do you want to devalue your strength by letting Godwin go?
Yeah. And I mean, here's the other, you got Bucky Irving, who was great as a rookie, and the offensive line. So they have obviously Luke Gedeke and Tristan Wirfs at the tackle positions. One of the best young tackle tandems. Gedeke has to get paid this offseason. Obviously, he's going to get an extension. You also have now Cody Mock, and you have Graham Barton, the rookie center and second year guard, who both had great years this year. I mean, you're
Mhm.
talking 4 good offensive linemen that could be around for next 15 years as well. So there's no reason to believe this team is going to be bad anytime soon, at least offensively. I think the question is just like, what's their ceiling moving forward? How do you they've shown they can be good. The question is going to be how can they be great?
Yeah. I mean, the offensive line, like you said, is young and very talented. There's a lot of playmakers on this team. Uh, you may have one of the best offensive coordinators in football right now who may end up getting some head coach buzz after this
Mm-hmm.
Ben Johnson sweepstakes plays out. We'll see. Maybe he ends up the head coach of this team. We'll also
Mm-hmm.
see on that. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, your offensive coordinator is great. All that looks really good. The big thing is going to be figuring out, you know, I think you could look at the season and say, well, the defense wasn't healthy. We'll fix that. Obviously the defense should be healthier next year, and that fixes that a little bit more. But at the same time, I think there is a question of depth with this team. I think you talked about that even preseason. You were worried about the depth of this team, even when you didn't even know a guy like Zion McCollum was going to be as good as he was this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think those are things you're going to have to address. Levante David's another year older. I still think he's great when he plays, obviously. So there's nothing wrong with that. But he is older. Um,
Yeah.
and I just think it comes down to like, look, you've drafted all these guys on the defensive end. The secondary guys have mostly worked out, but like you've tried the Joe Tryon Shoyinka, you tried the Logan Hall, Kalijah Cansey, who was very good in this game, and nothing's really kind of hit in that regard. And you have to figure out that front seven around Levante David and Vita Vea a little bit better.
There's no reason in a playoff game Deion Jones and Shaq Barrett in 2025 are getting significant playing time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster, it feels like.
Last time Deion Jones had a big play involving the Bucks, it was Jameis Winston's 30th interception for a pick six in overtime.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fun little bit of trivia there. Kyle, do you have any more thoughts on? I'm going to say fun season, good season for the Buccaneers. Ultimately disappointment, but I'm not going to complain about playoff berths. I had a good time this year.
Yeah, I think that the thing is like you've gotten 2 straight good Baker Mayfield seasons, and that's
Yeah.
something that was, I think, a question heading into the year. Can he do it again? Because he's been a guy
Mm-hmm.
who's inconsistent over his career. It looks like he can, and he got even better this season, in my opinion. So that's the first aspect of it. All the buzz was on Atlanta in the preseason. You held off Atlanta, and honestly, looked like the better team throughout the season. There's nothing wrong with the Tampa Bay season. I think that they had a successful season. This loss definitely stung, but I think overall a success. You beat the 2 best teams in the conference. Like, there's not a lot to complain about for Tampa Bay. I guess as Washington goes, I guess how much of a chance do you give them against Detroit?
I don't think they have no chance. This feels like it's a thing that happens from time to time, right? Where you have this team have this really impressive wild card game, and then they have to play the 1 seed and just don't look the same. But like, I know that what Detroit's done, even with the injuries defensively, has been great. But like, given what Jaden Daniels has done himself, I mean, we keep talking about Jared Goff. The poor Jared Goff keeps going up against like red hot quarterbacks. Last year it was Stafford, it was Baker, and then finally Purdy. That was kind of more of an advantage Goff. Like now it's Daniels, and it's like the Lions have way more talent, and I don't think Goff's a bad quarterback by any means, but Daniels is the better quarterback, and so they're going to have to kind of like what we talked about previewing this game. They're going to have to win a game where they probably won't get better quarterback play.
Yeah. And that's saying a lot because Goff's been on fire to end the season. So
yeah,
it just speaks volumes to what Daniels is at this point. And yeah, I mean, I think you like you said, this Detroit defense has played admirably well and honestly fantastic in that Week 18 win for the 1 seed game. But this is a whole different game plan, and you have to find a way to stop this Commanders offense because I don't have any doubt Detroit's going to move the ball on basically any team they face in the playoffs.
mm-hmm.
But they have to find a way to get stops because that just creates a variance that's difficult to overcome.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, again, the Commanders got some stops in this game, so maybe you get a couple mistakes, your offense is able to go through. They got a puncher's chance. That's what I'll say. I'm not picking them to win. Spoiler alert, but they got a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
All right, Kyle. So that's our show. That was the game to talk about this week. No, we have four games left. None of them were particularly great games, but I think there's intrigue in all of them. Should we go with the upset Chargers Texans?
Yeah, I think so. I think this was the story of the weekend. Obviously, there's been a lot of Justin Herbert takes after this game. And I guess that's probably the story we should start with. Justin Herbert had one of the poorer playoff performances I think you'd see. I think that's not
one thing. Hey, Kyle, your take of you'd rather have Caleb Williams over Justin Herbert. Aging better now.
Yeah. That is true. I think that looks good after this game. So we're Justin Herbert defenders. Honestly, the fact that there's an anti-Justin Herbert crowd is still ridiculous to me. I mean, it's fine. Like, look, every good to great quarterback has to go through this phase, right? If you don't win in the playoffs, you are going to get slaughtered. Granted, he's just 2 games, but they haven't been the best 2 games either. So I do think some of the criticism is warranted because while not every play was his fault in this game, he was very, very bad. There's no sugarcoating it. He was abysmal. This game was abysmal. And I mean, it's unbelievable to look back at this and see that the Chargers had a 6-0 lead because it's like, it just felt like that they were fighting from behind the entire game and they just had nothing figured out other than throw to Ladd McConkey and hope for the best. They couldn't do anything else against this team. And I think the biggest worry we said about this game was the Texans on 3rd down can win this game. And the Texans won this game on 3rd down or flipped the momentum really on 3rd down, it felt like, and then came up with every big play imaginable. And yeah, I just think that was the biggest story of the game is that Justin Herbert was not ready for that situation. And the Chargers didn't have any answers for that 3rd down stuff.
Yeah, a lot of things to unpack here. I mean, that's something we previewed going into it. Was I was kind of talking about how it's like I don't think they're going to run the ball. I don't think the Chargers are going to run the ball well, and I don't think they're going to play great on 3rd downs. So it's like really we're talking about play action passes on 1st and 2nd down. Is there one way to move the ball? But we kind of just assumed it would work out because the Chargers have found ways to make it work, and it was sort of like sometimes when you only have one way to be effective, like. The Texans were able to get some stops there. It wasn't as effective as we thought it would be. And then they were essentially just screwed, right? I mean, again, we'll talk about Herbert in a second, but like that was what kind of killed them.
Absolutely. Yeah, they had no plan B. And honestly, the plan A wasn't even really a plan A because they still ran the ball a whole lot on early downs and did not do themselves any favor. The second worst day for me was probably Greg Roman beyond Justin Herbert. Not that everything, if he was not getting good quarterback play, I don't think it's going to help. But like, it just wasn't inventive enough for me. They had no options, and I mean, it was a huge letdown performance for all of that. And then I think equally, a huge credit goes to the Texans and their preparation for this game because I thought the edge rushers were really good. Will Anderson had a sack and a half. Mario Edwards had a couple big plays. And then, I mean, the second biggest story of this game for me was that, I mean, the best player of the weekend for any game on any team was probably Derek Stingley Jr., who got his All-Pro nod in this week as well. And yes, he gave up some catches. It was not a clean game, but he was also amazing and had some amazing plays and dominated this
He
game.
had 2 catches as well, so that you'll take that. No, he was unreal. I mean, he's on the thumbnail for a reason. I mean, he was fantastic. I thought you were going to say C.J. Stroud, which I would have disagreed with. Although Stroud, he threw the ball to the other team 3 times. It was only caught 1 time. That's why football is weird, right? Both of these quarterbacks threw to the other team 3 times. Herbert also had one off his receiver's hands that got intercepted. That made 4 picks. Stroud, luckily, 2 of those weren't picked. But the difference is, Herbert had that one McConkey play, but Stroud had the big plays. Stroud had an up and maybe a bit of a rocky performance, especially early on. Because you said this kind of felt all Chargers. I felt the opposite. Early on, I thought this was all, or you felt like it was all Houston. I thought early on this was all the Chargers were taking the lead and going to win the game. Like the Texans weren't getting anything going offensively, and it really all turned on that fumbled snap play, right?
Yeah.
Where I wish we could get a positive play on a fumbled snap play as a Buccaneers fan. But they fumbled. Stroud fumbles the snap instead of just falling on the ball. He somehow turns it into a 3rd and 16 conversion. They score on that drive, and it just completely flipped the game. They actually get a stop, and they get another field goal drive in the half. All of a sudden, they're up 10-6 when they were getting crushed. I mean, that's, and then Stroud had some other key plays. So it wasn't perfect, but him and Nico Collins, and that's the other thing we talked about, Nico Collins, tough guy to stop. That's kind of what allowed this Texans offense to work.
Yeah. No, I mean, it felt like at a certain point they just had the Chargers defense figured out and they couldn't guard him anymore, right? And honestly, it probably came shortly after that big play, right? So they hit that big play, they go down and score. I just think in retrospect, it was like, because it felt like the Texans just dominated the second half, and then it's like, oh wait, the Chargers were actually winning in this game. I forgot that happened. But yeah, it's just it just felt like at a certain point the Chargers had no more answers, and then it was all Texans. The momentum was there. And yeah, it was a flawless second half performance. And yes, they got some luck. Yes, they caught some breaks, but they also took advantage of those situations to maximize this win. And huge win for the Texans, and they go on to the next round. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, Texans were great. I'll apologize to the Texans. I didn't think they had this. I sort of forgot they had this in them, I guess I would say. So this is I feel like I have to give I apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, they look so bad to end the season, and I know they had the suspensions and a couple injuries, stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't know, the offense coming to life like this was a thing I didn't expect. I think that was the big thing. I saw the vision of the defense playing well. The offense being able to do this is a different story.
Kyle, here's a stat for you. Ladd McConkey, 9 catches, 197 yards. That's good. He was very good. The next leading receiver was Will Dissly, 2 catches for 16 yards. That's awful.
Yeah. Not a very good balance there. That is for sure. Yeah, they need some help, man. That's just not a very good passing game performance. I mean, obviously, Quentin Johnson getting goose egged on 5 targets is not something you want either. But yeah, I mean, it's just one guy looked prepared to play in this game, and it was McConkey, and he was really good in this game and had some big plays. And obviously, the numbers are a bit skewed by that 86-yard touchdown late, but at the same time, he was making the plays all game. He was the guy that was making everything happen, and it'd be great to get him some help, I think, on this offense next season, and that should be their priority. They need to add to this offense next season. They need to add skill position talent because I think they've done a really good job of establishing the culture under Jim Harbaugh, establishing the offensive line in the line of scrimmage, and now you need that skill position to pair with it.
Yeah, the Chargers, we've said it all season, are way ahead of schedule. We did not expect the Chargers team to be a playoff team. Even me, who was more optimistic than most, was like, "Hey, I think this team could win like 8 games this year. Like let's not like they might not be as bad as people are saying." The fact that they were a legitimate good team was impressive, but ultimately, you're right, they didn't have the skill position. Kyle, we're dancing around it. Let's have the Justin Herbert conversation. He had a bad game, so he stinks. He's a bad quarterback, and they should trade him.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
uh,
easy conversation. No, I mean, like, okay, I'm not gonna say he was good. Like, he was bad in this game. Like, he was actively bad. He missed throws. He had a pick six that he just airmailed to throw on. He had some other missed throws. It was not good. And unlike Stroud, he didn't really have that many big positives either. I'm still not gonna take the worst game of anyone's career basically and say that's who they are.
of course not. I mean, it's never going to be that way. I mean, it's going to be that simple for some people, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it ever is that simple. So yeah, I think it is. It is a conversation of Justin Herbert is still a great quarterback. He's had 2 bad playoff performances, and this was honestly way worse than the first one too. So
Yeah.
um, that is the big thing that we're looking at. With like, yes, he is still a great quarterback. He had a great season. I mean, honestly, it was one of the best seasons of his career too. He was phenomenal from start to finish, I thought. And he laid an egg. He laid an egg in this game. I think the question becomes, because I'm not a QB wins guy. I never have been. I just don't think that is a barometer of success or failure all the time. However, there is going to be an indescribable, there's going to be, everyone is going to try and judge these guys off of playoff wins and losses. That is
Mm-hmm.
just how it's going to work. That is how the rhetoric's going to work forever. What is the number for then? Like, if Justin Herbert has 5 straight bad playoff performances in a row, doesn't win a playoff game in his first 5 games, looks bad in them, then do we have the conversation? Like, what is the arbitrary number that we have to put on him before we start saying, like, yeah, this is a little weird. This is like the Tony Romo 2.0 kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know how that happens. I don't know the number behind it.
Yeah, I mean, like it does. There are players who seemingly play worse. Also, I'm sorry. Are we now pretending Philip Rivers stunk? I hear people saying, "Oh, Justin Herbert is like Philip Rivers." Philip Rivers like is like a whole of very good. Maybe I don't know. I would say it starts with at least more than one. I think I need to see more than one bad Justin Herbert playoff game before I'm willing to say that he stinks.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Kyle, let's do a couple of guest EPAs. First, so keep in mind, Justin Herbert had a plus 8.5 EPA play in here. What do you think his total EPA was?
Uh, minus 40.
No, not quite. Minus 22.3. But again, that's with an 8-point positive swing. Without that play, it'd be in minus 30s. So that's a tough game.
That is not good. Yeah, that's with an 86-yard touchdown pass somehow. Minus 22.
Yeah. Guess the EPA the last time he played in a playoff game.
It's going to be a lot better than that, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go with minus 5.
No, it's positive. 6.9.
There you go. He had a great
Yeah.
first half.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I actually thought he played all right in that game. I was just thinking, I actually went back and watched some highlights from that one, which is not a great way to evaluate it. But like, some Lawrence was throwing like wide open receivers the entire second half. Like that loss was not on Herbert.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think it was great in the second half, but it certainly wasn't like amazing. Or, it certainly wasn't like it wasn't as bad as this. I mean, this is a whole different level. Like, this is actually like an atrocious performance. Like, this is the kind of game you watch and it's like, oh, is Drew Lock playing quarterback today or something? What's their backup name? Easton Stick. Is that still the backup?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is Easton Stick in for some reason? What's going on?
Yeah. No, it was a horrible game. But it is just one game. Let's move on. 3 games left to talk about. 3. Speaking of horrible games, we got nothing. We can keep it going here. Let's go Packers Eagles, because this was kind of I would say the next closest. As the Packers were, there was a couple games like this where the team that gets down early kind of tries to hang around. It was a bizarre game where both offenses were just stuck in the mud this whole game, and then all of a sudden, like they both just catch on fire late in the third quarter. Ultimately, the Eagles pull off the victory here. Kyle, what were your thoughts on this one?
For a stretch, this was one of the most boring 22-1 score playoff games I had ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think the defenses did play well. I don't want to take anything away from them, but I didn't even think they played that amazing at stretches in this game. I thought the offenses just had no idea what they were doing at times. They hit a stretch where so I was about to give the Eagles a ton of credit to start this game because they go up 10-0, and then all of a sudden it's it felt like their whole game plan was you are going to stop Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, and then maybe we'll think about throwing the football. And it was like Jalen Hurts started 6 for 6 in that strategy. And then for some reason, they just started throwing the ball all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he started 6 for 6, and then at one point was 6 for 13. And they just basically went away from the thing that got him up 10-0. And yeah, it was one of the most bizarre things to watch the Eagles just kind of say, okay, this is Jalen Hurts' game now, for seemingly no reason. And he ended up bouncing back and doing all right in the end. But there was a middle stretch there where, I mean, it was awful. And it looked like they couldn't move the ball at all. And it looks like the Packers were going to hang around and potentially steal this game. And I'm like, wow, Nick Sirianni's definitely fired if they lose this one.
Mm-hmm.
And they managed to, hold them off, get the late touchdown from Goddard, which was a fantastic play from Goddard. And, kind of moved on from there. But man, that was ugly in stretches.
Yeah. You thought for a second, is that missed extra point going to come back to haunt them? Because that put them only up 13 instead of a clean 14. Yeah, that Dallas Goddard play was awesome. I mean, that was just incredible. Stiff arming a guy, staying in bounds. That was fun. I mean, I don't know which quarterback was worse here, Kyle. Both were. Both played poorly the first time they played, and now they both played poorly again.
Yeah, Jordan Love. I don't think Jordan Love's good. I've settled on it.
Well, this is why I've been going crazy this season, Kyle, is because Jordan Love, who I think is young enough that he could play better, I feel like he's someone who plays good one week and plays poorly the next week, and everyone just acts like he's a great quarterback.
So my issue with Jordan Love, and I don't know if this is fair, so feel free to check me on this if it's wrong.
Okay.
He can't drop back the pass and throw the ball. And that's usually my first thing I look for a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Everything based off of the Packers offense is Matt LaFleur scheming up stuff for Jordan Love to make plays. Everything's a rollout. Everything's a play action pass. Everything is based off the run game. How many times do you see Jordan Love go into a 5-step drop, step into the throw, and make a good throw? It feels like it just happens very, very rarely. Or at least a lot less than it does other guys that we consider are great quarterbacks at times. Don't get me wrong. I think he has a terrific arm. I think he's got fantastic arm talent, but I just don't think he makes the same elite throws all the time. And you can't take this amount of misses. Yes, the Darius Slay interception, it's a one-on-one coverage. He takes a shot downfield. Darius Slay, honestly, that should be taught in schools how good that coverage was. I mean, that was amazing stuff. But the other ones, it's just I don't know, man. We can't have this many mistakes from a guy who we're paying this amount of money, and it's harsh. It's the harsh effects of the game, but I just don't see enough of the great where it's comparing it to the Herbert one we just talked about. Great Justin Herbert is really, really great. I don't think we see enough of that version of Jordan Love to really be sold on this guy going forward.
No, and again, I have to keep in mind he is the second highest paid quarterback in football right now, only behind Dak Prescott, who I forgot Jordan Love got $55 million a year. The Cowboys gave Prescott $60 million. I don't know why they usually do get a little bit more. I don't know why they give him that much more. That was stupid. But anyway, I mean, yeah, this is in. Not to beat a dead horse, this is the issue with sitting a quarterback. Is you sit a quarterback, you have the Aaron Rodgers years. Okay, maybe it helps develop him, but now you're in a situation where after one season, they had to decide if they want to give him a long-term extension or not. This is part of the rookie contract is so important. If Love is on a rookie deal, the Packers have a superstar wide receiver and a good defensive end on this team, and they're a better team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just a whole lot different. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it was good enough. Granted, I mean, like, this is the number one defense in football too. So, like, I think it should be
Yeah.
taken with a grain of salt. But at the same time, you're probably going to have to face the best defenses in football to win in the playoffs. Like, it's just kind of how it works. And I just thought there was a lot of plays left to be desired in this game. And yeah, it didn't seem like he was up to scratch for it. I mean, that's just kind of what it felt like. And there were opportunities in this game. The Eagles let them hang around, and it just felt like the Packers could not put anything together. They scored their first. I mean, they only scored a touchdown because Josh Jacobs like willed it to happen. Like that run
Mhm.
was another crazy play in this game. Like there was a point where they looked like they might get shut out.
Yeah, yeah. In fairness, there was a missed field goal somewhat early on that
Mhm.
helped contribute to that. And I'll say this as well: Love did make some good plays. I think you're correct in that. Like his good plays are always like either a great schemed up play by Lafleur or like it's something completely breaks down and he's able to scramble out and make this like great off balance play. Like, and he had a
Yeah.
couple of really nice plays as well. So just like we're talking about with Herbert, we shouldn't judge him based on his worst game. I think the issue with Love is that he kind of got judged last year off of his best games, and that's the thing is there's just too much inconsistency with him right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels harsh, but at the same time, like you said, there were some good plays. He had this slant pass that was like between three guys that was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
he had a few plays like that were really good, and you saw the arm talent there for sure. But you just have you know, inconsistency just kills you in the NFL, right?
Hmm.
Like you just can't get away with being like up and down. And he was athletic enough that he could get away with it in college and high school. And he just can't get away with it anymore. He has to establish some form of consistency because it's just never going to work in the NFL if you're not consistent.
Right, because he's probably gonna have to play great in 4 straight playoff games given his division. We haven't seen him do it. Also, like, okay, so for the Philadelphia Eagles, they're gonna play either the Rams or the Vikings at home. Like again, they're gonna need to get better quarterback play too. I know Hurts had missed like a month prior to this, but like, they're gonna have to play better as well. They're gonna need more than one AJ Brown catch.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I also feel like I'm just the guy who's never going to be sold on Hurts, but at the same time, like I thought the beginning of this game was really great. I thought the end of this game was really great, and there was a whole lot in the middle that I was like, I don't know what he's doing. But so like it's just one of those things that I think he's a pretty good quarterback, maybe not great, and he still has the talent around him. But I don't know. I just watched this team, and this has got to be Saquon's offense for the rest of the postseason. Like this is why you pay Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, no,
Run him to the ground. Run him to the ground for these next 3 games. And if you win all three and win the Super Bowl, it will be Saquon's Barkley Super Bowl.
Kyle, I can't believe we take this long to bring this point up as well. It's not often the biggest play in terms of both EPA and win percentage added is on the opening kickoff, but that's what happened here. There's a fumbled kickoff with some controversy. First, I don't know. Looked like the defender just like went right into Keyshawn Nixon's head. With his helmet, which seems like that is something you're not allowed to do in the NFL. Also, kind of looked like Keyshawn Nixon recovered the fumble there. They ultimately said there wasn't enough evidence. That's a tough break for the Packers right out of the gate. If they don't get the touchdown to start the game for Philadelphia, like who knows how that changes the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge momentum swing off the kickoff. So
Mm-hmm.
big play there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was obviously a lot of controversy behind that, but it was also one of those things where I watched and I was like, the Packers special teams again. But
Yeah.
that was definitely much more of a bad luck than the other Packers special teams moments over the years.
Right. I agree. But yeah, this was somehow this was like one of the better games of the week.
No, I don't think it even was, but
No,
that's fine. Yeah.
I would say it's third. I think we're in order. I think there was at least a lot of with the Texans Chargers. That was actually a great game for like 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, and then it got away from them, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think that's probably fair. Yeah.
Okay, well, 2 games left. Let's go Steelers Ravens. This game was very similar to the other game where it started off lopsided. Then all of a sudden, this Russell Wilson Steelers passing attack just started playing great in the second half. Ultimately, it was just too little, too late. They basically had no margin for error. The Ravens got enough stops, but yeah. I mean, George Pickens was George Pickens in this game. Russell Wilson might have saved his job for the Steelers next year with how well he played down the stretch. But the story of this game is the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry combo, which is just, I mean, it's unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, look, this was the very much the conversation of what I was just saying with the start of the Eagles offense in the last game. They basically said you're going to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, and then maybe we'll think about passing. And
Mm-hmm.
this was just a perfect representation of what this offense should be at its absolute best. They basically just ran the ball at will, did what they had to do, and then the first drive they had, like the second it finally got stopped for a play or two, and honestly, it was a Justice Hill run for -3 yards. They got to a 3rd and 13, hit Rashad Bateman over the middle for a touchdown, and that was like, all right, oh, we had to throw the ball there, and then they punt, they go right back to it though, and Derrick Henry runs in for a touchdown. They force a punt, get the ball back, and it was Lamar Jackson to Justice Hill for a touchdown after running the ball at will. And yeah, I mean there was a stretch early in this game where I think each of them had 11 carries, and I'm sure like some Ravens fans will say like we don't want that many carries for Lamar Jackson, but at the same time, it's the playoffs. You're going for the Super Bowl. You got to do what you do best, and those two look fantastic, and that was the difference from the start. And they kind of hit cruise control after that.
Yeah, I'm and with the way the Ravens defense has picked it up, they gave up too much in the second half. They're not going to be thrilled with that, but like the way their defense has picked it up as of late, I mean, they're going to Buffalo. I mean, that's just an awesome game, right?
Oh yeah, I mean we got the top 2 MVP candidates from the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that's going to be awesome. I mean, these two
It
teams
feels
have
like
been
a
really
number
good.
one contenders match, right? Like those two
Oh yeah,
against and then the Chiefs the following week, probably.
yeah. It's like you're bracing for the title fight, and honestly, those contender fights where the winner faces the title fight is sometimes better than the title fight because those two teams fight with nothing to lose. You know,
Right.
they're going for the title shot. So I think both of these guys are going to play at their absolute best. And I'm absolutely looking forward to it, man. I mean, this is going to be fantastic stuff. And everything we wanted is in this game. So there will be plenty of drama. This is the Sunday night game for a reason. And Baltimore looks the part right now, man. Like I said, I've continued to say all year, at their absolute best, they look like a Super Bowl winner. But we'll see if they can get it for 3 more weeks.
Yeah, I mean this is the best Lamar Jackson playoff game, right? I mean I don't even think it's close because the Texans game last year, I think it was it tied at halftime? Like the second half he took over, but that was not like a wire to wire game. This was just like even when the Steelers started coming back, like the Ravens just kept driving.
Yeah, it was just and that was with like yeah, there was some weirdness with that game for sure. I was trying to remember. There was like a couple interceptions and such, if I remember correctly, that flipped that game pretty quickly too. So, yeah, this was probably the best playoff. I mean, this was a really good game overall, so I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I think this was the best playoff performance of his career by far.
Here's an issue for the Steelers. So I was looking at like the biggest EPA plays in this game. The 3 biggest Steelers plays in terms of EPA. They were all long touchdown passes. They all only gave their win percentage a one higher. What moved their win percentage up 1 point? It went them. The first one was they went from a 2% chance to win to a 3% chance to win. The second one, they went from a 1% chance to a 2%, and then the third one, they went from a 1% chance to a 2%. That's not ideal. You need to hit those plays earlier on.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Man, I don't know what it was this season, but I would love to see a side-by-side comparison of the entire season, Russell Wilson first half stats against second half stats. Because it feels like every time he comes alive in the second half, but it still wasn't enough. And yeah, I mean, they got the one touchdown that made it a little bit interesting, but the Ravens immediately went back down and scored and made it 28-7. And yeah, I don't know what to think of this team anymore. Like for a second there, they had us bought in. They had us bought in that they could be the chance. And then, I mean, after the last 3 games of the season, the writing was on the wall for this. And, you know, there's a lot of people calling for Mike Tomlin's head, or at least to make a change for Mike Tomlin. The Steelers aren't going to fire Mike Tomlin. Steelers don't fire coaches. The only thing that would change is if Mike Tomlin wants to go somewhere else. So that's the first part of it. But I don't know. I think that's also a be careful what you wish for thing, man, because I still think he's a fantastic coach. He's probably one of the best in the league. He's a Hall of Famer. And I don't think that's just an easy thing to go and replace.
Yeah, I have our resident Steelers fan in the chat saying he's one of the Mike Tomlin needs to go people. I mean, I kind of get it. Like I agree that like okay, Mike Tomlin, you wouldn't fire him, you would trade him because there's teams that would
Mhm.
take him 100%. The Steelers would, or what the Patriots, they'd probably just fire Vrabel right back and get Tomlin if they could. He's someone you would want. But like at a certain point, you look at this situation, and I think that it's fair to say Mike Tomlin gets the most out of these situations and makes not very good team into a playoff team. But like, is that a good thing? How is that helping you at this point? Are you better off? It's like how the Lions traded Matthew Stafford. It's like at a certain point, you taking this bad team and making us go 8-8 every year is actively hurting us. Like, let's trade you so we can be bad and then rebuild.
Yeah, but that's not a Mike Tomlin problem. It's a roster construction team problem at this point. Like Mike Tomlin is doing the best with what he can, which is the right way to coach, in my opinion. Like he's not out here trying to go for draft picks or anything like that. And if the Steelers want to move off Mike Tomlin, then the intent should be to go for draft picks and draft positioning. Like that's probably what it has to come down to, because this formula that they have, that is the problem. Mike Tomlin is not the problem. They have the most expensive defense in the NFL. You know what I don't think you can do anymore? Have the most expensive defense in the NFL and win, because that takes away from your offense. And this is an offensive NFL game now. And I just don't think you can put all of your resources in the defensive basket, have this style of team, and expect to win rounds unless you have a rookie quarterback who's amazing. And they just haven't had that guy. They've tried drafting it with Kenny Pickett. It didn't work. And yeah, I think if you're letting Mike Tomlin go, if you're trading him to another team or anything like that, then it's a full rebuild. You're reconstructing the entire identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers at that point, because you need to make a lot of changes in that. You need to draft the quarterback. You need to hit on the quarterback, and you need to develop from there. And there's an argument to it. There is, but it's also easier said than done, because you know what stinks? Losing a lot. And as much as good as the Steelers fan base is, the Steelers fan base has not lost a lot in their lifetimes or past lifetimes. And how long are they going to sign on for this, hoping that they get a quarterback?
Yeah, Kyle, I'm sure you're sitting here saying, "Hey, it could be worse than being first out in the playoffs every year."
Sometimes it's nice to win like 10 games. I will say that.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I get it though. I mean, as our resident Steelers fan brought up, my team won a Super Bowl 5 years ago. Makes it a little easier. But I just I said this when I did my Buccaneers recap about Todd Bowles, which I still think that you probably keep him. But like, at what point are you letting your fear of being bad get in the way of you being great?
Yeah, I mean, I get the concept. Like, as much as I don't like tanking and all that kind of stuff, and we've talked about that a lot on this podcast, like I understand why a team would tank or rebuild or anything along that. But at the same time, like how you have to realize, like you mentioned there's no guarantee the Steelers are going to be great in the end. Like
Sure.
it could be 10 years from now and the Steelers still stink if they blow everything up. If they let Tomlin go, trade TJ Watt, say we're going for draft picks, we're going for tanking situation, it could work. Or they could miss on multiple quarterbacks and still be terrible in 10 years. So yeah, I just think it's one of those things where it's like you can do this, you can try it, but at the same time, it could be a decade and you're still not great. It could be 2 decades and you're still not great. I mean, it all kind of just depends on how that plays out.
Yeah, I'll make the comparison with John Gruden in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who they got rid of him, saying, we want to, like, you're making the playoffs, but we want to do more than that. And then they ultimately missed the playoffs for 12 straight years. It ultimately worked out, but I don't think that's what the Steelers want to go through. And it comes down, I mean, I think more than anything, it comes down to the quarterback position. They just have not been able to figure that out, partially because they haven't been drafting high, but they just haven't been able to get a good quarterback since, Big Ben was good.
Yeah. I mean, the last Big Ben year with Antonio Brown was their last great quarterback season. And this was a good quarterback season from Russell Wilson. But unfortunately, Russell Wilson, a good Russell Wilson season is not winning in the AFC. It's just not. You're not beating Lamar Jackson with a good Russell Wilson. You need a great quarterback. And they've tried, and I give them credit for trying, honestly. Like, they've tried the Russell Wilson thing. They've tried the draft thing. They are trying, but at the same time, you just have to keep trying until it works. Draft a quarterback every single season. Trade all of your resources to draft a quarterback if you have to. Do whatever you can to get that guy in the building you think might be the guy.
Yeah, the Chiefs were in this spot, consistently making the playoffs, not doing great. They found their quarterback. It worked out pretty well for them. Someone brings up the Bucks messed up before Gruden. They should have kept Dungy. But that's also kind of a good example of what we're talking about, right? Of Tony Dungy is the guy who can't get you over the top. They get rid of him, trade for Gruden, and do win a Super Bowl. So it can happen, and it's so easy to say. It's a tough situation. Kyle, someone brought this up in the chat earlier. I think it was Kieran who brought it up, but I wanted to bring it up earlier as well. TJ Watt, 30 years old, never won a playoff game. That's crazy.
It is. But I think it also shows the influence that a defensive end has in the NFL, even if it's the best one.
Mm-hmm. He also wasn't great in this game.
No,
he was banged up, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple injuries, it feels like, the last couple seasons. But yeah, I mean, that's just the thing, though, is like, he can be schemed out of a game a lot easier than other positions. It just is what it is.
Yeah, and that's you're right. It's how things work. I was trying to look at his playoff stats. Looks like he only has one career playoff sack. That's also crazy. I think he's missed a playoff game, but yeah, in 4 playoff games, 1 career sack.
Yeah. And then quickly, what is it? Our resident Steelers fan, his last comment too, Mike T has hired 4 straight horrible. I'm not saying that Mike Tomlin doesn't have reasons for criticism, I think, in all of this. I think there is a justifiable cause to some of the issues that you have with the team and the personnel, but I still think Mike Tomlin maximizes the situation almost better than any other coach in the league. So I still think he's great at what he does. I still think he does have faults. Otherwise, they would win a lot more. But at the same time, like, I don't know. What offensive coordinator would make this situation great right now? Would Ben Johnson come into the Steelers team right now with this personnel, with this team, and make them the best, a Super Bowl winning team? I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I don't know if anybody could do that.
It all comes down to people always love to blame the coaches, never like to blame the personnel. And when you have a quarterback, it's tough. But do they keep Russell Wilson next year? Do you think that happens?
I wouldn't be surprised. But I also think it's one of those things where, as we just said, you have to keep trying. You have to keep drafting and hoping for the best. That if he's the answer for next season, then I'm out on the Steelers instantly. Like, just chalk me in for second in the division, wild card, first round loss. That's my prediction for next season if he's the quarterback.
Man, I thought they were different this year. They tricked me.
Yeah. They are the cart girl. They are the cart girl. You think
the ultimate frauds this year?
Yeah. That cart girl analogy is getting better by the day.
Yeah,
like, it just keeps it literally happened again this season where we all bought in and then not. They should trade for they need to figure something out though. Yeah, it could be Russell Wilson, but I'd like something a little more inspired. Trade for JJ McCarthy or something. That's more inspired for me.
Yeah, this morning where you go up to your buddy like, hey, you and the cart girl, and it's just it didn't work out. It shakes his head and it's like, didn't work.
Yeah, I DM'd in our Instagram and then I got blocked 10 minutes later. That's that was the result of the cart girl.
Yeah, but maybe next time. We're going golfing next week. Who knows?
Yeah, just wait till next season. Steelers will do a lot of golfing.
Yes, they will. Let's move on. Final game to talk about. I will say the biggest winners who were losers in this game, in this week, was the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, that's fair. They had us for a second there, not gonna lie.
I thought it was a game. First drive, they get that touchdown. I'm like, here we go. Did not score the rest of the way.
Yeah. It was rough.
Mm-hmm.
That first drive, that will be something to remember for now. But it didn't work out after that. So yeah, tough break there for the Broncos. They gave it their all. Bo Nix had a great opening drive, great throw on that touchdown, and then they just couldn't get anything going. And And to be quite honest, I think it all started with the defensive line play of the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the line of scrimmage play, because I thought the offensive line was nasty. And Josh Allen did play really well. He was great in this game, and his numbers look really great. But Buffalo imposed its will with the James Cook show and this offensive line just dominating the line of scrimmage. And I think that was the start of what led to this kind of breaking open and the Bills taking control. Because it was a very slow start. They came out sloppy. It was not their best performance. And then it felt like there was a couple big Cook runs there that got everything into place. And then the Josh Allen took over late.
Yeah, it felt like the Bills, early on kind of had the mindset of they're not going to give us anything over the top. Let's try and just, get the small plays, throw underneath. And I mean, again, it's one of those games where it feels like it was a blowout the whole time. The Broncos missed the field goal at the end of the half. If they made that, it would have been a tie game at halftime. So, like, this was not a wire to wire blowout. It became a blowout. But they really, the Bills did dink and dunk. You're right. They ran the ball very effectively in this game, which is, the Broncos kind of had to stop the run if they were going to have a chance here. They weren't able to do that. And, they were going to put resources to defend the pass there. So they had to try and find a way to stop the run. Weren't able to do it. And then eventually they just said, okay, let's just play man coverage. Let's hope it works out. And I mean, these Bills receivers won. That's really what it came down to is Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox and Curtis Samuel beating Pat Surtain on a 50-yard touchdown. That's not something I thought was going to happen in this game. So and then of course Josh Allen made some incredible plays, including that passing touchdown to Ty Johnson on 4th and 1, which again, if he doesn't make that play, what was that? Late in the third quarter, gets that passing touchdown. If they don't get it, they're only up 6. The Broncos have the ball. Allen had to make some plays at certain points, but he was able to do so.
Yeah. No, he made some big plays for sure, and that was a huge part of their win. And there was nothing wrong with that. But like you said, the receivers ended up winning later in the game after they kind of figured things out, and it just started with the line of scrimmage play. I thought once they couldn't do that, Denver had to adjust, and then Josh Allen made some plays down the field. Even Mac Hollins had a couple big plays in this game. It felt like everybody got involved for Buffalo in the end, and that's what you wanted to see. This offense still absolutely looks like a buzzsaw, and it's going to set up for a great AFC divisional round, like you said earlier, with the Ravens as well. This offense is fun. Everybody can make a play, and everyone feels dangerous at any point because Josh Allen can makes play. I mean, he can make a play anywhere on the field, honestly. So, awesome game, awesome win. Can I have our hot take? I'm not sure on that Ty Johnson touchdown.
Okay,
it looks like his foot sliding is out of bounds sometimes, but I don't know. The angle on it is weird. So, because he slides to catch it, and then the foot looks like it's dangling on the white, and I'm just I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it because his butt's on the ground, but his foot's also on the ground. Yeah,
I thought he had it when his foot because his foot raised right before it goes over to white. I think that's what saved, which is not intentional. That's why football is such a funny sport because obviously you're not trying to keep your feet off the ground, and that's just how his body happened to contort, and it meant that he got a touchdown instead of the Bills or the Broncos getting the ball.
Yeah, it was a weird play for sure, but I mean it was a heck of a play by both quarterback and running back there for sure.
Yeah. So, we talked about it with the Broncos. They weren't able to run the ball in this game. They didn't really have enough horses on the outside. No pun intended with them being the Broncos. They're another team similar to the Chargers. Need to get more weapons. Need to give Bo Nix a better situation. Give him more weapons. I thought Bo Nix looked all right in this game. The stats aren't great. I thought he mostly did what you would want him to do in this situation. The couple of drop passes, and there just wasn't a lot that he could do.
Yeah, he missed a couple throws, but at the same time, it wasn't all his fault. And overall, I agree with you. I thought he did pretty well. He even ran more than he had kind of all season, which was a nice surprise too because he is athletic. But yeah, I thought he did fine, and I think it's also one of those ones where this is definitely the best feel good loss of the playoffs, right? Of the first round, right? It never is good to lose in the playoffs, but at the same time, this Broncos season was nothing but a success from start to finish. And yes, it stinks to lose in the playoffs and get blown out in the playoffs, but at the minimum, you have a quarterback that you can feel good about for next season. You have a defense you can feel great about for next season. And yeah, it seems like you're set up for a lot more success. We'll see how far they can go. but it's at least more success.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny too how we view these teams with like the Chargers and the Broncos. If the Broncos beat the Chargers this season, then the Broncos would have probably been the 5 seed. And like, let's say they lose to the Texans, then we're kind of looking at like, oh, what a disappointment! Like they had a chance to win and weren't able to get it done. And then if the Chargers got killed by the Bills, we're saying, hey, what a good season. You know, it's kind of funny how that works.
Yeah, that is definitely how it works. But I mean, the thing, like, it also the optics of the game, whereas like Bo Nix played better than Justin Herbert too. Like that
Right.
was another part of it too.
Yeah,
So
the Chargers could have won that game. The Broncos, like, we just kind of realized, like, oh, like this is not a game they have a chance.
yeah, yeah. Once it seemed like the Bills were going, they just weren't getting stopped. It just came down to that. And are you back in on the Bills as a potential contender?
Well, I've never been out on the Bills as the potential contender. I think
You were
I've
definitely lower on the Bills. It felt like than most, because the worries of the defense. Did you see? I guess let's put it this way: did you see enough from this defense today? They got beat early in the game. Did you see enough for this defense to get excited for their future rounds, knowing they have to play the Ravens and probably the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I thought the defense played great today. I do think I feel better about the Bills tonight. And I mean, I still think that this is a team that's so Josh Allen dependent, but also Josh Allen's awesome. And we saw in this game like that he's not a bad guy to depend on. But I mean, you look at the reality of the situation, they're going to have to play Baltimore, they're going to have to play Kansas City probably, and then they're probably going to have, whoever is in the Super Bowl, if they can get all the way to there, like they essentially have like 3 contenders they're going to have to beat in a row. It's going to be difficult. I think that they could do it, but I'm wondering what that line is. I think the line actually was like they're 1.5 point favorites. So like, do they have a chance? Sure, but it's I'm not necessarily going to say like it's their year either.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't know if it's that, but at the very least, I think that they did what they had to do to. Yeah, ESPN has it as Bills -1. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's at home. So I guess they would
Yeah.
say Baltimore would be the favorite on a neutral. But yeah, it's a they looked really good in this game. I think the defensive line had a really inspired performance too. And yeah, there's a lot to get excited about for Buffalo. So we'll see how it looks next season or next week. In the biggest playoff game so far, we have Sunday night, and we're both looking forward to that.
Yeah. So the schedule the rest of the way. First off, I mean, we get Texans Saturday at 4:30 again. Let's go.
A tradition unlike any other.
Yeah.
What do you think of that game? I mean, obviously the Chiefs are heavy favorites. The Chiefs should win that game. At the very least, you could say the Texans should cover them. Like, can not like cover the spread, like cover their like they have options to cover. And I mean, it's strength on weakness in a lot of ways. We see Will Anderson Jr. against those Chiefs offensive tackles. Like that is a lot to get excited about for the Texans for sure. I think Mahomes is just going to have too many answers. So, but I don't know. What do you see there?
I mean, these teams played each other like it was December 21st. That was one of the weird scheduling, and the Chiefs. I don't want to say mopped the floor, but they won that game pretty handedly. I think the bigger concern I would have if I'm a Chiefs fan is this team hasn't played in 20. It'll be 25 days. In between games, the Houston Texans are battle tested. Their momentum, they're riding high. Like they're very much in a groove right now. I think that's my concern is, are you going to start off slow? Could that be a way that you can maybe get the upset?
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. And I mean, the funny thing is like, you say the Chiefs dominated that game, and they did for basically the most part. And this has been the Chiefs thing all year. They won the game by 8. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like they, whether that was garbage time or whatever, like they just find a way to let like things linger longer than it feels like they should sometimes. So it'll be very interesting to see. They obviously ramped it up to end the season and look fantastic. But then, like you said, they've had a number of days off since then. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how that plays out. But I still am envisioning a Chiefs win.
Yeah, just looking at the lines now, the Chiefs are 7.5 point favorites. The Lions are 8.5 point favorites, and as you mentioned, the Bills are 1 point favorites. I don't know. I mean, I think to be honest, I could be wrong. I think we're going to see I don't know. I think the Chiefs are just really good this year. I think the Chiefs are playing their best football at the right time. I think people are hopeful we could see someone new. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if Stroud can avoid mistakes, there's a case, but it's a lot to ask still. That would still be the one that I still think is the most likely to just say the favorites kind of win and move on. But anything else I think is up for grabs at this stage.
Yeah, we need some better games. Kyle, this has been kind of an underwhelming NFL season, I would say.
Yeah,
It's still football, it's still fun, but
should we get Alabama in? Did South
yeah.
Carolina deserve to make the playoff? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying I think that the good teams have been really good this year, and it's kind of made it a little bit underwhelming.
I would agree with that. Maybe we need more Drew Aller just for some chaos.
Yeah, I think maybe like the Chiefs should, if you win back-to-back Super Bowls, you just have to every playoff game Drew Lock has to play the first quarter.
Well, they've spotted teams like 20-point leads before.
That's last time these teams played. Texans were up 24-0, and it did not go well.
Yeah, did not go well at all.
Yeah, so that should be a fun rematch. I think Bill O'Brien didn't do well in that game.
Yeah, he is coaching Boston College now, so they had a good season.
Okay, well there you go, Bill O'Brien, he's back.
He's just coaching now. He doesn't have to GM or anything like that.
That was crazy that the Texans there's been two coach GMs, and it's like Belichick and then Bill O'Brien.
He deserved all that power.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but should be, hey, even though I'm saying this, some great games, and like I said, I mean, Ravens Bills, that's could be the game of the year.
That should be the game of the year. Mm-hmm. Granted, that was an absolute domination when they played earlier in the season, but I'm hoping for better. That should be fun. I'm looking forward to all the playoff games, and
Vikings Rams tomorrow.
Vikings Rams. I mean, we're gonna get some classics. It's happening for sure.
Yeah, Vikings Rams was the one I said I was most excited for outside of the one my team's playing. So I'm looking forward to it. Give us one. I guess we already got one good game, but my team lost. It wasn't that good. Give me a good game.
Yeah, give you something to enjoy now. That's for sure. You deserve it.
Yes. Kyle, let them know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Braun, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, if like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. It should be available there. Kyle, so next week the Sunday show so we're still going to do our Wednesday show 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to we're going to recap the Vikings Rams, and then we're going to preview the 4 divisional games. The Sunday night game is at 6:30 instead of what it was this week, which was 8. So do we want to just move the show up an hour and a half and do 10:30?
Yeah, that works for me. I'd like going to bed early, so yeah, that makes sense because, like you said, 6:30, so 10:30 Eastern Sunday night. Let's do it.
Yeah, so 10:30 Eastern next week. So we'll try to be able to go live a little bit earlier, so we don't have to wait. So everyone, make sure you're set your clocks for that and everything. But probably don't set your clocks for it. That is a lot of setting your actual alarm clock.
Set an alarm for 10:30 Sunday right now.
Yes,
just so you're ready for our stream.
Yes, I agree. Hopefully there will be some better games, but there was still some always stuff to talk about, Kyle.
Always some drama. Unfortunately, it won't be making fun of Justin Herbert this time, so people will have to find something else to talk about.
We could still do it.
Just talk about Justin Herbert again. I'm for it.
The Lightning won today.
There you go. You beat us too, I think, the other day, right?
Yeah, and then there was a fight after the. I don't know why the games are so weird. You guys have played 4 more games than us this year. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm happy we beat the Panthers, even though that overtime game was just stupid. I like beating the Panthers, but this is easily one of the least fun Bruins teams in some time. There is just nothing interesting about watching this team.
They might miss the playoffs too, right?
Currently, they're in a playoff spot, but like you said, all those extra games. I mean, we'll see. It'd be pretty funny if this team just is annoying to watch and they still make the playoffs, so I have to watch anyways, but we'll see.
Play the Leafs round 1?
Well, we'd probably end up with the Panthers again round 1, which is not something I'm looking forward to.
I'm looking at it right now. The Leafs are first.
Yeah, I mean they are doing good, so I could see it.
Yeah. Okay. That is our hockey talk for the week. Kyle's depressed about the Bruins, and I feel like the Lightning are just the Buccaneers, but for hockey.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. But everyone, thanks for watching till the end of this. Like I said, we'll be back. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be back next week at 10:30 Eastern. Kyle, any final thoughts? You're ready to get out of here.
No, let's go home. All right.
Yes, let's go home again. Thank you to everybody. I am home. I'm not sure where you are.
Yeah, I'm home too, but
Okay,
home over there.
Yes,
Everyone say
let's
hi to
go.
Luna.
Yeah, let's go. Let Kyle get to his dog again. Thank you to everybody for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.